She was only 13 when life finally seemed to offer a second chance. After years of neglect and instability, she found safety in a new home, began to thrive at school, and even rose to become captain of the cheerleading team. Surrounded by support and love, it looked like her painful past was finally behind her. But behind closed doors, she had discovered a new world, one that existed behind a glowing screen. When she began chatting with someone online who seemed charming and understanding, it felt like a spark of something exciting. What she didn't realize was that this digital connection would lead her into a dangerous trap. Let's uncover how an innocent online friendship turned into a terrifying descent no one saw coming. Christina Long was born on March 17, 1989 in Fairfield, Connecticut, USA. In 2001, due to serious family problems, she moved in with her aunt, Shelley. Her mother, Beth Fronzack, had struggled with drug addiction for many years, which led to the deterioration of her life. Christina witnessed her mother's decline firsthand, which deeply affected her. The home Christina lived in became chaotic and unsafe, as her mother frequently hosted men involved in the sale of illegal substances, consumed by addiction. Beth paid little attention to her daughter's well-being. Christina was neglected, and this began to seriously affect her daily life and school performance. Teachers reported the situation to social services. When social workers came to investigate, they found Beth in critical condition. Fortunately, Christina was not physically harmed and was still trying to keep up with her studies and daily activities. Although it was a struggle, unlike her mother, she did not use drugs. Social services decided to place her in the care of her aunt Shelley, who was deemed capable of taking on the responsibility. Social workers also assessed Christina's father's condition. Unfortunately, it was not much better than her mother's. Although Christina's parents' marriage had seemed fine at first, they divorced just 2 years after her birth. Her father chose not to remarry and instead led a reckless lifestyle, frequently changing partners and neglecting both Christina and Beth, who was battling serious addiction. It was evident he was not a suitable guardian for Christina, who was only 12 years old. Ultimately, his living environment was deemed dangerous and unfit for a child. As a result, Christina was removed from this harmful situation and placed in a safer, more supportive environment. Custody was awarded to her aunt, Shelley Raylan, the only person who genuinely cared for her and wanted to help. At the time, Shelley was 51 years old and worked as a sales agent. Over the years, she had been heartbroken watching her older sister Beth's life spiral out of control. While she couldn't save Beth from addiction, she felt it was her duty to step in for Christina. She had always loved her niece and couldn't bear the thought of strangers raising her. Shelley, who was both kind-hearted and financially stable, had the ability to offer Christina a brighter future. Christina moved to the quiet suburbs of Danbury, Connecticut. There, she finally experienced a stable and caring home environment. Shelley took on the role of caretaker and mother figure, and the two quickly bonded. Over time, Christina began to heal from the trauma of living with her addicted mother, who often had drug dealers visiting daily. Tragically, in her desperation to fund her addiction, Beth sometimes sold her body, an ordeal Christina witnessed herself. In September 2001, Shelley enrolled Christina in a prestigious private school, known as one of the best and most expensive in the city. Shelley wasn't concerned about the cost. Her only goal was to give Christina the best opportunities. One of the key reasons for choosing a private school was the higher level of safety and security it offered compared to public schools. In an environment mostly filled with children from wealthy families, the standards were high and better controlled. Shelley's main objective was to protect Christina from harmful influences and ensure a positive path forward. At her new school, Christina quickly adapted and made friends. She was beautiful, kind, and easygoing, well-liked by her peers, thanks to Shelley's care and support. Many of Christina's good qualities began to shine, traits that had been previously overshadowed by her parents' neglect. Her life started to improve, and she achieved notable success. 9 months after moving in with her aunt, the traumatic memories of her past began to fade. Christina was recovering from years of emotional abuse. She integrated well with her classmates and even joined the cheerleading team, eventually rising to the position of captain. She was blossoming into a confident and capable young woman. Despite her success, Christina became increasingly depressed. Shelley was determined to find out why her niece was feeling this way. Christina explained that all the other students at her private school already had their own computers and used the internet to gain knowledge and information. She also wanted a computer and asked her Aunt Shelley to buy her one. Although she had experienced years of indifference from her biological parents and had no desire to reconnect with them, she deeply wanted to communicate with her older sister, Kosa, who was 19 years old and living in Japan. Christina also believed that having a computer would greatly benefit her education. With internet access, she could quickly find information to help with her studies. This reasoning convinced Shelley, and she decided to buy Christina a computer. Overjoyed, Christina immediately set up an account to use chat platforms like Odnoklassniki. She used a fake nickname instead of her real name, but uploaded actual photos of herself. She lied about her age. Although she was only 13 at the time, she looked older and appeared more mature than her peers. Online, she claimed to be an adult. On the very same day, she created her profile. A user with the nickname Clips reached out to her. They quickly started chatting. Being inexperienced with online communication, Christina behaved as she normally would in real life, calm and friendly. Her new online friend intrigued her, and they quickly grew closer. After Christina got the computer, Shelley noticed that she was spending more and more time online. Shelley became concerned, feeling that Christina was growing increasingly disconnected from real life. She was aware of the dangers the internet could pose, but wasn't sure how to address them. She felt that imposing strict control might be too extreme. Shelley spoke to Christina several times, reminding her not to interact with strangers or do anything unsafe online. Christina reassured her, insisting that she only chatted with people she knew, classmates from her private school, and avoided strangers or suspicious individuals. Shelley trusted Christina deeply. Though curious, she avoided interfering directly in her niece's private life. Instead, she would occasionally walk into Christina's room, glance at the screen, and ask casual questions to ease her concerns. Each time, she saw Christina chatting with school friends, which reassured her. Christina continued to chat online more frequently with the young man. Their relationship had begun with a simple, "How are you?" but quickly escalated to sharing personal photos. Christina became nervous that her online friend might stop talking to her if he found out her real age, as she had told him she was 16. Their conversations grew more personal and eventually turned intimate. One evening, Shelley noticed that Christina had locked herself in her room. She appeared to be chatting online, and Shelley grew more concerned about how withdrawn she had become. It seemed all her free time was spent on the internet. Christina no longer drew, hung out with friends, or met anyone in person, except for her weekly walks around the local shopping center every Friday after cheerleading practice. Shelley feared that her warnings were being ignored. That evening, Shelley knocked on Christina's door to talk to her and expressed concern about her behavior. As usual, Christina claimed she was just talking to friends and refused to open the door. In reality, Christina was texting Clips at the time. before she went to bed. He messaged her saying he wanted to meet in person and would come see her on May 17, 2002. The message excited Christina. Everything was happening so quickly, and it all felt new to her. She was eager to meet him, but knew her Aunt Shelley would disapprove. Shelley had always warned her about the dangers of talking to strangers online and had repeatedly emphasized the potential consequences. But Christina felt differently. She believed everything would turn out fine and began dreaming about the future. She thought this young man could be the love of her life and even shared her feelings with her friends. While many people do meet online and form genuine relationships, there are also serious risks. Behind a perfect online profile could be someone dangerous, a criminal using social networks to lure innocent victims into traps. Christina was aware of these dangers but chose to follow her heart. She was determined to meet Clips, no matter what. Christina planned to meet him on May 17th. She told Shelley in advance that after cheerleading practice, she would be going to the mall with some friends. Shelley was pleased to hear this, as she had been worried that Christina was becoming too absorbed in the virtual world. She felt relieved that Christina seemed to be reconnecting with real life. In reality, Christina was planning to meet her online friend. As the day of the meeting approached, Christina anxiously counted down the days, continuing to hide the truth about her plans. She wasn't concerned by the fact that Clips had never revealed his real name or shown his face in photos. He claimed to be a healthy young man and a basketball player. Christina herself was also healthy and looked more mature than her age. With shared interests, their conversations flowed easily. On the morning of May 17th, a young man calling himself Clips phoned Shelley's house. Shelley couldn't tell Christina at the time, as she was at school. Later that day, Christina attended her cheerleading training, came home to change clothes, and got ready for her supposed shopping trip. Shelley had agreed to drive her to the mall, where she was supposedly meeting her friends. Since she often went shopping with her classmates, her behavior didn't raise any red flags. During the drive, Shelley asked Christina about Clips. Christina explained that he was an athlete from a nearby school and admitted they had met online and sometimes played games together. When Shelley asked about his age, Christina said he had just turned 14. She didn't mention any plans to meet him in person. Shelley grew concerned and voiced her worries, but Christina reassured her, insisting that she was only chatting with him online and not planning to meet. Christina added that she wasn't ready for a serious relationship due to her age. Shelley believed her, but still couldn't shake a feeling of unease. She was aware that Christina looked older than her age, more like 16 or 17, and was quite attractive, which naturally raised her concern. Still, Christina's reassurances managed to calm her. In reality, by that time, Christina had already been sending photos to Clips regularly, including some revealing ones. Clips was especially thrilled by a picture of her in her cheerleading uniform. Their conversations had become flirtatious and gradually escalated to exchanging more intimate photos. Despite her age, Christina had dated before and had even been intimate, so she engaged in online flirting with confidence. At around 5:40 p.m., Shelley dropped Christina off near the entrance of the mall. Shelley tried to persuade her to let her come inside, still feeling something was off and wanting to make sure Christina was truly meeting her friends. But as soon as they arrived, Christina quickly jumped out of the car and pointed to a group of teenagers, claiming they were her friends. Shelley didn't have time to react or ask questions, as they were in the middle of the road and cars were waiting behind her. Trusting Christina, she drove away unaware that she had once again been deceived. Before leaving, Shelley called out that she would be back to pick Christina up at 9 p.m., the usual closing time for the stores. Christina asked for an extra 30 minutes and suggested Shelley come at 9:30, but Shelley stood firm and repeated that she would return at 9 p.m. Shelley ended up arriving a little late, at 9:10 p.m. To her surprise, Christina wasn't in the parking lot. She waited for a while but soon began to feel anxious. She called Christina multiple times, but her niece didn't answer. Growing worried, she parked her car and approached mall security. By that time, there were very few shoppers left, but there was still no sign of Christina. Shelley went to the security desk, described Christina's appearance and clothing, and explained that her niece was supposed to be meeting friends at the mall. The security team responded immediately. They began checking the mall for any information and reviewed surveillance footage. Despite searching throughout the shopping center, Christina was nowhere to be found. Shelley remained at the mall until 9:45 p.m., waiting, but Christina still didn't show up. She called her niece's phone several more times, but there was no answer. Finally, Shelley decided to call the police. Because the case involved a minor, the police responded promptly. They arrived at the shopping center and worked with the mall's security team. Officers reviewed more surveillance footage and checked any stores that were still open, but no one reported seeing Christina. Meanwhile, police also questioned Shelley to gather background information and determine whether Christina might have run away voluntarily. Shelley told them that her relationship with Christina was very close, more like that of a mother and daughter. Christina had no history of mental health issues or substance abuse. She was a model student, intelligent, athletic, and full of potential. She lived what appeared to be a completely normal teenage life. The only thing that stood out was the amount of time she spent online. According to Shelley, there was no reason for her to run away. Shelley then called several of Christina's friends, the ones she believed her niece was supposed to meet that evening. To her surprise, none of them had made any plans to go to the mall with Christina. In fact, they said they had never gone shopping with her before. The police questioned them, and their stories were verified. After school, they had all gone directly home and hadn't been in contact with Christina that evening. One of Christina's friends provided a crucial piece of information. Christina had told her that she had been chatting online for months with a stranger, a boy she described as a 14-year-old high school student who played sports. The friend revealed that Christina had planned to meet him in person for the first time that night. This news shocked Shelley, who had no idea her niece had arranged to meet someone from the internet. Shelley had often warned Christina about the dangers of the online world. She believed her niece understood the risks and would make responsible choices. Shelley had never tried to monitor Christina's online activities closely, preferring to base their relationship on trust and fearing that strict oversight might damage their bond. Upon receiving this information, investigators launched an immediate search to identify the mysterious young man. They soon discovered that his real name was Carlos and that he was not, in fact, a 14-year-old high school student, but an adult who had lied about his identity. Detectives informed Shelley of this development. She was stunned. She recalled the phone call from Carlos earlier that day and how Christina had once described him as a young athlete. When she realized Carlos might be an adult, she panicked, understanding that the very dangers she had warned Christina about were now real. The investigators asked Shelley for access to Christina's computer. When they opened it, they discovered that the person Christina had been chatting with had already changed his username and profile picture. To make matters worse, the messaging app Christina had used to communicate with him was password protected. Shelley realized that this level of secrecy wasn't normal for casual conversations with a peer. The police contacted the app's administrator to request access to Christina's account. Though the process was complicated, Detectives gained access after about 2 hours. What they found shocked Shelley. Christina had not only been chatting with Carlos, but also with several other strange men at the same time. Christina was an open and outgoing girl, willing to flirt, and had engaged in intimate relationships with several older men. She had also met a younger man several times, purely for casual encounters. Through her conversations, it became clear that neither she nor the men involved were seeking serious relationships or marriage. They were simply having fun. Christina did not consistently reveal her true identity. Some people knew her real age, while others believed she was an adult. While reviewing Christina's chats, detectives identified 3 suspicious accounts. 2 of them were selected for further investigation. It was soon revealed that one of the individuals was Carlos, a 22-year-old man. The meeting with him, scheduled for the day of her disappearance, would have been their first in-person encounter. Naturally, he became the primary suspect. Detectives quickly located Carlos's residence and went to question him. Fortunately, he was at home. His behavior immediately raised suspicion. He denied knowing or communicating with Christina. But he stuttered, appeared extremely nervous, and responded slowly and incoherently. It was evident he was hiding something. When asked about his whereabouts the previous evening, he began shaking visibly and claimed he had stayed home. Despite his clear anxiety, he did not confess to any involvement in Christina's disappearance, leaving the police no choice but to verify his alibi. At this point, Christina was officially classified as a missing person, potentially kidnapped. Investigators suspected that one of her online acquaintances might have abducted her and was holding her against her will. She had been missing for over 18 hours, and the police were acutely aware that the first 48 hours are crucial in missing person cases. Since Carlos did not admit to the kidnapping and there was no concrete evidence against him, investigators shifted their focus to another suspect who had also raised concerns. The second suspect was a young man named Saul dos Reis. His bandaged hand immediately caught the attention of investigators, as it appeared to be a fresh injury. Saul claimed he had hurt it the previous evening while working on a car. He also denied knowing Christina, although detectives had uncovered evidence that they had been texting each other. His nervous demeanor and inconsistent statements suggested he was hiding something. Due to the lack of solid evidence, the police had no choice but to release him temporarily. In reality, Saul was the man Christina had been secretly meeting for intimate encounters over the past few months. Her Friday shopping trips with classmates were actually a cover for these private meetings, which took place in Saul's car. Unfortunately, despite investigating both Saul and Carlos, police had yet to locate Christina, and time was slipping away. They soon learned that Saul's parents lived in Brazil, which made him a high flight risk. As a result, they made the decision to arrest and detain him. Saul was brought in for questioning again that same day, under the pretense of having lied during his initial interview. Investigators showed him the messages that proved his secret relationship with Christina. They began asking leading questions, including inquiries about Christina's age. Since she was only 13 years old, exchanging explicit content with her could constitute harassment or worse. Saul appeared visibly concerned, but police suspected he was hiding an even more serious crime. Using standard interrogation techniques, including sustained pressure and emotionally loaded questions, investigators eventually got Saul to confess. He admitted that he had, in fact, met Christina. According to his statement, they walked together through the shopping center on Friday evening, chatting happily. Later, he suggested they spend some time alone in his car, and she agreed. He claimed that they engaged in consensual intimacy in the vehicle. When police pressed him about Christina's age, Saul stated that he believed she was an adult. He claimed that during their online conversations, Christina had told him she was of legal age, a fact police later confirmed was true in the messages. In reality, Christina was only 13. Saul said she looked significantly older than she was, wore heavy makeup, and dressed like an adult. He insisted he had no idea of her true age and expressed regret that she had misled him. Detectives now had enough evidence to confront Saul. He continued to maintain his innocence. Saul claimed that after engaging in an intimate relationship with Christina, the two parted ways. According to him, Christina was planning to meet someone else, and he simply went home. Saul, who had a wife and children, lived nearby and worked at a local restaurant. He stated that his home was close to the place where he had met Christina. Following this interrogation, police grew even more suspicious of Saul. They believed he might have been the last person to see Christina alive and suspected he was not telling the truth. Although he did not confess, he was arrested and charged with using the internet for corrupt and inappropriate activities. A full day had passed since Christina's disappearance, and there was still no trace of her. Detectives then re-interrogated Carlos, believing he might know something. It was possible that Christina had met with him after seeing Saul. One major issue was that Carlos knew Christina was underage. In their online conversations, she had told him she was 16 years old. Despite this, Carlos had still agreed to meet her. Their interactions included flirtatious messages and the exchange of photographs, some of which were explicit. During questioning, Carlos appeared visibly nervous. Investigators tried to use his fragile emotional state to get answers, but once again, he refused to cooperate. By now, 36 hours had passed since Christina went missing, with no significant leads. Both Carlos and Saul were in custody, yet neither was providing useful information. Volunteers and law enforcement had been searching continuously for more than a day, but no trace of Christina had been found. At this point, the FBI became involved in the investigation. Agents administered polygraph tests to both Carlos and Saul. When asked whether they knew what had happened to Christina, the polygraph results indicated that both men were being deceptive. Their behavior only deepened investigators' suspicions. 40 hours after Christina's disappearance, Saul finally agreed to cooperate. He led police to his neighborhood, guiding them between two houses to a drainage pipe behind the buildings. There, Christina's body was discovered. Saul admitted that he had accidentally strangled her during an intimate encounter. He claimed the act had been consensual but got out of control. When she lost consciousness, he panicked and became confused. He said he tried CPR but failed to revive her. Instead of calling emergency services, he disposed of her body in the drainage pipe in an attempt to avoid punishment. The investigation later revealed that Carlos had also engaged in sexual activity with Christina earlier that same evening, before her encounter with Saul. Not after. For his involvement with a minor, Carlos was sentenced to 4 years in prison. Saul continued to deny intentional wrongdoing. Nevertheless, prosecutors charged him with second-degree murder, assault, and the corruption of a minor. No one believed his account of the incident being accidental. The prosecution argued that Saul killed Christina out of jealousy after learning about her interaction with Carlos. The court found Saul guilty and sentenced him to 30 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after serving 25 years. The story of Christina Long is more than just a tragic tale of a life cut short. It is a powerful lesson in the hidden dangers that can lie within the digital world. Christina was a bright, kind, and resilient young girl who had already endured more hardship than most experience in a lifetime. After years of neglect, abuse, and instability, she finally found hope, structure, and love in a new home. She was thriving in school, making friends, and beginning to rebuild her life. But even in this newfound stability, she remained vulnerable to threats that did not appear on the surface. Her case highlights a painful reality. While the internet offers tremendous opportunities for learning, connection, and growth, it also provides a platform for predators to exploit innocence behind a veil of anonymity. Christina, like many teens, sought friendship, validation, and a sense of belonging online, needs that are completely natural for someone her age. Unfortunately, those same needs made her a target for manipulation by adults who misrepresented themselves and preyed on her trust. What happened to Christina was not the result of bad choices, but rather a lack of understanding, guidance, and protection in a digital space that moves faster than most adults can keep up with. Her story serves as a stark reminder to parents, educators, and policymakers that online safety cannot be an afterthought. We must foster open communication with young people, teach them critical thinking about digital interactions, and establish safeguards that keep predators at bay. Christina's memory must be preserved not through fear, but through action. Her story should be used in schools and communities as a tool for education, a way to initiate honest conversations about the risks of the online world, healthy relationships, and the importance of knowing who we're really speaking to behind a screen. Let her life not be defined solely by its tragic end, but by the impact it can have in protecting others.